Hey everybody. So I just went down a huge rabbit hole for the last maybe 24 to 48 hours where I listened to this podcast from the podcast Attitudes, ADD Tudes, talk about ADHD, and they had a podcast from June 11th where they talked about ADHD and the connection to PMDD. And they pretty much talked about the whole histamines in the body. Now, I previously had looked up into Ehlers-Danlos syndrome in regards to looking into a possible link for other illnesses because I just always feel very weak when my PMS cycle starts, especially after ovulation. I've been told I'm hypermobile. I feel like all kinds of hardships with trying to fire up certain muscle groups. I feel like, I work out as much as I can, but lifting weights and stuff is hard, and there's a weakness always in my hands, opening cans and stuff. So I went to the doctor and they scored me a 4. I think it's 4 out of 9, and I think I'm supposed to be at a 5. So I don't know. I think I'm on some sort of hypermobile spectrum there. So to put that aside, I also, listened to the podcast and they talked about PMDD. But what blew my mind is they talked about something called premenstrual exacerbation. Never heard of it before. I am 48 years old. I just turned 48. I've never heard of it. I mean, it took a long time to even hear about PMDD. I think I was maybe in my 30s or almost 40s when I heard about that. And I tried the whole estradiol little patch and previously before that birth control. And I just never felt that worked for me. So I listened to this podcast and I was like, oh my God, I totally think I have premenstrual exacerbation because I've always been kind of anxious. I feel like I think all that's there even before my period. I was a highly sensitive kid, anxiety, possible depression. Who knows if there's bipolarism in the family. Things started to add up over the years, like TMJ, anxiety in the body, always having a hard time regulating the nervous system, allergies, sensitive to sound, sensitive to bright light sometimes, sprained ankles a lot when I was younger, and when I walk I would drift into people. I didn't even know that was ADHD back then. I look now and I'm like, oh my God, you always had ADHD. They say things like hating when people walk slow, hating with this and that, and I'm like, oh my God, yes. So, I mean, either I'm a hypochondriac or I just have a lot of things to check off the list. So the fact of existing conditions and the fact that you feel worse right after ovulation, the luteal phase, they call it exacerbation. So great, fabulous. And then, when I was reading up on the EDS and looking at some people who were talking about it, they were talking about histamine in the body and mast cells. And guess what? For PMDD, they're talking about that too. They're saying that it's an allergic reaction to too much estrogen in your body. What? I was never told this. Never. And I did a Dutch test 2 years ago. And if I remember the overview of it, it was your estrogen just bottoms out. Because before I did the test, I kept going to my gynecologist and saying, I don't know if I need more progesterone. I don't know if I need more estrogen. It's the same hokey pokey when you talk about dopamine and serotonin. And I don't know where the testosterone fits in. Anyways, so I did the Dutch test because Kaiser wasn't going to do any testing. Can you do some hormone tests? And there's like crickets in the background. So I did a Dutch test 2 years ago. I did two different ones. There was the one where you do like most of your whole cycle, and then there's the complete, which I did again just recently. And you just do like the last 4 tests where you do dinner time, bedtime, waking up, and 2 hours later. I still have to send that one in. So, yeah, it's just, I don't know. I don't know. I've said for years, why don't they just scan your damn brain? Because you constantly have to be like, is this the right pill? How much have to take? Is this the right supplements? How many do I have to take? Do I have to take them all individually? Should I get some that are like mixed together so I don't have to take so many pills? You know, like getting a magnesium, calcium, zinc hybrid, but maybe that's not the way to go. Or getting a omega-3 vitamin D or whatever hybrid, because it's like it's exhausting the sheer amount of medication you have to take in supplements, and being ADHD and trying to remember to be consistent is impossible. Like, I'm already losing my train of thought of all the things I'm saying. So again, the ADD podcast blew my mind. Talking about mast cells and histamine in the body, and it's an allergic reaction. And I'm like, that makes so much sense because I'm a queen of allergies. I mean, I don't know if I have food allergies. They may have tested me. I don't remember. But I'm very easily prickly. Always have been. Emotionally, physically, I can't really garden and stuff. I have allergies. Stuff just peaks up. Why wouldn't it also be my menstrual cycle? It makes so much sense. And brain-wise, too. That's why I have the ADHD. So that just blew my mind. Blew my mind. And I just, like, emailed a million doctors. My last primary care doctor, my last gynecologist, my psychiatrist, a genetic doctor, and I actually made appointments with 2 new doctors, but I'm not going to see them until like July and August. So I'm like, do I bombard them with emails? And they haven't even met me. Oh, man. Yeah, it's tough. And I have to say, I am eating better in some ways. Not as much sweets, but it's really been hard to completely cut like things like pizza, cold turkey, because I love me some carbs every once in a while. But I'm just doing it too often. And with the physical weakness and tiredness and the ADHD, it's just too easy to like order food, pay that tax, order groceries, pay that tax, because just constantly going back and forth and doing stuff has just been a pain in the butt. It's really tough to have energy to stand up and cook for a bit, and it feels like it's too much energy just to get out of bed, you know. But I'm trying, and I'm fully aware of all the stuff going on with me, and it's overwhelming. It's overwhelming. So if you're someone who has similar things going on, if you know about PMDD or you don't, but you do now, and you know now about premenstrual exacerbation, and you might be somebody who has allergies and TMJ and body and chronic fatigue, and like this is a lot of stuff, you know, you're like, why is there so much stuff going on with me, but I don't know what's going on. So, you know, so I definitely have ADHD. I definitely have PME or PMDD. Am I autistic? I don't know. Do I have Ehlers-Danlos? Do I have some sort of hypermobility? Possibly. Do I have bipolarism? I don't know. Am I reaching for too many things? Maybe. But I did a 23andMe test, and it said, your genetics is, like, it's prone to probably be a yes. So somebody must have had it. And I feel nowadays there's so many different spectrums, so you never know the level. All right, guys.